Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships, how to cope, how to heal, and what do you do when you are gaslighted in public? I have no doubt that most of you watching this have had that experience. And sometimes a public gaslighter may not even be someone we know well, right? Typically, gaslighting doesn't work with strangers, especially if you don't give a damn about the stranger, right? Gaslighting gets some of its power because there's some value put on the relationship. Now, you might be thinking, but I feel like I'm gaslighted by the media. I feel like I was gaslighted by a hospital. I feel like I was but you still care about those things, right? You might have needed the hospital visit to get a medical opinion. You might have been watching the media to find out about the state of the world you're in, that kind of thing. And so it feels like then it's not that you're thinking there's a relationship, but the information they're giving you feels important to you, right? So there has to be some valence to it. So in essence, if you're in a grocery store and a person is trying to argue that, I don't know, they're talking about two sports teams and saying, oh, the Dodgers are better than whatever team, or the Yankees are better than whatever team, and you don't care about the Dodgers, the Yankees, or that person, and they start saying nonsense about the team, and they tell you like only a crazy person would like the Dodgers, you're like, what? And so that wouldn't be necessarily, I suppose it would be a gaslight because they're sort of doubting your experience, but it wouldn't have any impact because you have no interest and investment in maintaining any kind of a relationship with that person. So there's an assumption around gaslighting that the relationship, for any number of reasons, matters to you, even if it's not just a family or intimate relationship. All right. So that said, you may be at a party. You may be at a family event. You may be out to dinner with a group. You may be at a work meeting. Whatever it may be, there is a gaslighter in your midst, and they gaslight you in public. Now, a lot of people will say that, learning about gaslighting has been a funny kind of a trajectory for them because they'll say, I didn't even know what the heck this was, right? Some people get gaslighting wrong. They think gaslighting's lying. It's not lying. Some people think gaslighting's a difference of opinion. It's not a difference of opinion, right? Gaslighting is a denial of experience, perception, of memory, any of those things. And then after that sort of reality of the person is denied, then they're told that there's something wrong with them. So it's a boom, boom. You got to have both of those pieces in there, right? So it could be that, I'll make this up. You're out to dinner with a group and a person, and you say, I remember when I traveled to Italy some 15 years ago, I stayed at the XYZ hotel in Rome. And a person at the table says, no, you didn't. And you're like, hello, you don't even know me. Like, what? Yes, I did stay at the XYZ hotel in the year 2002. And they're like, no, you didn't. It didn't exist then. You're like, now you're kind of tripping, right? Because you're like, okay, wait a minute. We had just gotten married. Oh, sorry, we were on that trip. So now you're already doing the thing, right? That we always do when we're gaslighted. When we start going through all the evidence, sorting through it, you're like, nope, definitely not. Because we went the year before my daughter was born. So we were definitely at that hotel in 2002. It was definitely the XYZ hotel. Even now you're telling yourself the whole story about it. And the other person's holding, no, you weren't there. Now you're getting upset. You're like, I was at the XYZ hotel. And you give them the whole story and my daughter, and it was a trip and that. And then you're realizing like, God damn it, they didn't have iPhones then and I can't find it in my photo roll, right? Camera roll. And they're calmly sitting there. That's gaslighters can often do. And you say, no, I was there. And let me tell you why. And then you actually go and excuse yourself. And you say to your host, hey, can I borrow your laptop for a second? And the host's like, sure, whatever. And you borrow the host's laptop and you find out XYZ hotel opened in the year 2000. It was open in 2002. So you come back to the dinner table like, look, this hotel was open. Now you be looking a little bit unhinged because it wasn't that high stakes, okay? I don't personally, if I was at this party, you would be my hero. I would not think you were unhinged, but I bet everyone else at the party would. And now the gaslighter is looking at you and looking at the piece of data and saying, oh, yes. And yeah, I can see how you have such a strong memory of it. Well, the XYZ, I mean, come on, the hotel, it's like a kind of like where people who think they're rich stay when they want to seem cool, but like, ooh, kind of not a nice place, but like, I'm guessing looking at you, it's probably the best thing you've ever done. Now this fool's insulting you and telling you got no style and you're kind of like a marginal person. And like yeah, I guess I can see why this was such a big deal to you, because like, how many times have you really ever been to Rome? When I go to Rome, I stay in my friend's palazzo, kind of snobby bullshit, right? So my point in telling you that story is you were just gaslighted in public, right? You were in the XYZ hotel in Rome in 2002. You went, you felt the need to bring the evidence, something we never want to do with a gaslighter, but you were in front of a group being doubted. You find your smoking gun, you roll it up, ha ha ha, there's the hotel. And by the time they're done, you've now been shown to be the nutty dinner guest who had to go find evidence and now are sort of being sort of portrayed as some sort of down market, sort of unsophisticated traveler that's staying in some really not very nice hotel and still having these obsessive memories. That's what gaslighting does. And when it happens individually, we feel destabilized. But something happens when it happens in public. We're almost destabilized in front of a group. And that feels worse. So you may be wondering, well, what should that person have done at that dinner party example? They say, nope, you couldn't have. The hotel didn't exist in 2002. And then you might say, yeah, I know. I live in my happy little delusional world, but I have so many good memories of it. And you play it out as humor. And you don't give up. You were definitely there, but like, yeah, my little delusional thing. Or like, I guess we're gonna have to disagree on this one, but yeah, I loved that hotel. What you don't want to do is engage. And I'm not even so sure I love that delusional play. Like, why should you call yourself out of your mind? And because they're trying to portray you that way. So I would really stick with okay, I think we're just have to not have that. We're going to have different opinions on this one because, okay. But the other thing that should happen, and for you, is like, ding, ding, ding. There's a gaslighter at the table, okay? And for you, this then becomes the beginning of some disengagement. Now, if the gaslighter is somebody who sort of keeps holding court, and a lot of people are listening to, or might even be the gaslighter's party, I would start looking for the exits and finding a way to sort of bring this to a soft landing, because it ain't worth the headache, okay? There is no point ever in history to engage with gaslighter. However, there's no win in trying to call them out. Some people might feel mobilized, especially if someone else was having that experience with you. So let's say back to the XYZ in Rome hotel experience, the person's spouse was sitting with them, and you look at your spouse and say, remember, we stayed at XYZ hotel. Don't you remember? We had that room with the balcony, and then the noise and the elevator, don't you remember? And your spouse may not want to take the fight. So your spouse may be an ally, and maybe they'll band with you, but in many cases, people don't want to sort of upset the apple cart in public. And this is why public gaslighters can often have so much power. They almost count on this idea, but and not act, again, don't think that this is happening consciously, but they really almost count on this idea that that no one's going to call them out. And what happens with public gaslighters is it often works. Some of you might be watching this saying, well, shouldn't someone finally call out the public gaslighters? They stop doing it. They're not going to stop doing it. I think what's got to happen for us is that we've got to be willing to clock the public gaslighters as public gaslighters for ourselves. What that may mean then is we may not want to go to that party again. We may not want to go to that person's house for dinner anymore. We might find out they're going to be a dinner guest and say, I think I'm going to take a pass. Some of you might say, well, is that fair to other people? Listen, if other people were willing to see you as having something wrong with you because you were trying to clarify a point, I don't know. You can say, listen, I don't enjoy this person. I still don't know why we play second grade. I still don't know why we play second grade rules in adult relationships. Like in second grade, we were all supposed to get along. It doesn't always happen in adulthood. And again, another way narcissistic people hold their power is that we're viewed as bad team players if we will not repeatedly engage in spaces where a narcissistic person holds power or holds court. We see this happen in family systems. We see this happen in workplaces. We see this happen in friend groups where there's one narcissistic person who really holds power. And honestly, there's a remarkable amount of courage in saying, this person isn't healthy. I don't want to be in this. This isn't good for me. Life is too short. I have a lot of other stuff going on. However, if you want to get together with just me, sign me up. You guys have a get together and you don't involve such and such, I might be in, but this, not healthy. Some of you might say, wasn't that an ultimatum? No, you're not saying, I'm never going to see you again. So I'd love to see you again under these circumstances. We get into that gray area of what ultimata really are. But when it comes to this public gaslighting, it can actually have a greater impact on people because it can sometimes feel almost like a public shaming. But the way you can protect yourself from gaslight shaming is to not get in the mud with them. Now, some people say, listen, I feel nutty. Like, I know I was at that hotel, so I want to double check. Go double check. If it's that problem, take your phone under the table, look up, what year did XYZ hotel open up? It opened in 2000. I was right. And leave it at that. I fully understand that when, when somebody sort of turns your epistemic universe upside down and tells you things that you know to be true, like tell you the sun does rise in the west, you're like, no, it doesn't. But you may still look out the window to make sure, there's the west, and yep, that sun's definitely setting. Might help you feel better. Getting that little piece of information doesn't mean that you are falling for the gaslighter's bait. Sometimes it helps us sort of shore ourselves up and feel stable. The key, though, is not to bring that evidence to the gaslighter. In a way, they don't deserve it, nor are they going to benefit. And sadly, many other people around you won't get it. Now, where it gets very interesting, and one of the most healing things that can ever happen to us, and I've seen this happen, is when they hear the pompous person who's saying, no, the XYZ hotel wasn't open then. And then someone else on the table does the Googling and says, yo, I actually looked it up and XYZ hotel opened in 2000. I can tell you, even if that happens to you just one time, it can be one of the most healing, validating experiences you've had. Because now the gaslighter can't really go after the fact checker because they never claimed to stay at the hotel. What the gaslighter may end up doing, though, is shaming the whole group and say something like, I don't even know why I'm talking about this stuff with you. Like, really? XYZ? Who stays in those hotels? Like, and so now, but going down as a collective is very different than feeling that you are experiencing the searing light of the gaslighter. So again, the rules for gaslighting in public are pretty similar to what they are in private. Don't engage. But if you are in public and it happens to you, it's really important. Though if you want to check your facts, you can. If you're in public and you notice someone is being gaslighted and it's not you, but you're observing it, there's no greater gift you could give to that person, either doing it in public in that moment or later on in private if that's more appropriate and saying, that hotel was open in 2000 and I'm sorry you went through that. Sometimes just being seen is the greatest intervention of all. So that's how you shut them public gaslighters down. And next time, don't go to dinner with them. Thanks again.